Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Houston Sports Talk back in another video today, and we're going to be talking about another NBA trade deadline rumor, as it was reported by the Bleacher Report that the New York Knicks are potentially or would potentially want to trade for Saddiq Bey, power forward / small forward for the Detroit Pistons, and this is very interesting. So many players that the Knicks are interested. They're interested in Anunoby. The list goes on of players that the Knicks are looking at this trade deadline. It's gonna be interesting who they trade for at that power forward, small forward position. I think there's a lot of guys that would fit well on this Knicks roster, and we'll just see what ends up happening. I mean, Malik, they're interested in Beasley. They're interested, which I think you could probably land Beasley and Bey at the same time, because I think that you can. I think you could trade for Beasley, trade Fournier and a first round pick to Utah, and then get Bey in a separate deal, which I think the Knicks are ready for the playoffs if you get Bey and Beasley and don't have to give up much for them. So, yeah, let's go over what it would take to give up to get Saddiq Bey. I would love Saddiq Bey on the Knicks. I think he fits well with their team with Brunson and RJ, who was benched today, and Julius Randle. I think he fits well with that team. And then potentially if you land both Bey and Malik Beasley, you got a lineup of Brunson, Barrett, Bey, full of bees. So Bey at the 3, and then Randle at the 4, and then Robinson at the 5. So you got 3 Bs in the first 3 positions, and then you got 2 Rs. So you got Brunson, Barrett, Bey, Randle, and then Robinson. I mean, I like that lineup because then you got Beasley off the bench, and then all the other depth they have with Quinn and Grimes off the bench, and more. Sadly, Emmanuel Quickly would not be involved in this team because he would be involved with this trade, and let's go over what this trade does look like. So the Pistons would receive Emmanuel Quickly, who's been amazing this season, averaging 12 points per game, has been a great shooter for the Knicks. And if there wasn't so many great players that have been, a six man this season, Quickly should be a finalist for the 6-man award, but so many players have been too good in that role for him to be a finalist, but he's been phenomenal. So he's averaging 12. I just don't think the Pistons would be able to, because you're getting Quickly. I don't think the Pistons in this trade would be able to land a first-round pick. So in that case, I do have the Pistons receiving 2 second-round picks. Don't know the year. Actually, I do. 2024 is one of them, and I don't know the year for the other one. I think it's 2025 or 2026. So you get 2 second-round picks. You get Quickly, who's definitely a baller. So I think that's a nice trade. I mean, if I'm not mistaken, isn't Bey a free agent? Quickly isn't. You're getting 2 second-round picks. I like it. I like it for both teams, and I think it makes the Knicks even more dangerous. I think if you trade for Bey and Beasley, I'm not gonna say I don't. This is not a for sure, but I think if you do make both trades, I think you could potentially win a playoff series. It just depends on your matchup. It really does. Right now, with where they are, I just don't see them beating Milwaukee or Boston if they're stuck in the play-in. So I think you have to get in the 6th seed if you want to win a playoff series, if you're the New York Knicks, or you have to add in some major help. You'd have to trade for OG Anunoby, which I highly doubt they will be able to do. I mean, they have the assets. They have the assets to do it. I just don't see them trading 3 first-round picks for Anunoby, plus players with those picks. So in that case, I just see them trading for other players. I like Bey and I like Beasley potentially going to the Knicks. I don't think that's even it for I don't even think the Knicks are done after that, because then you still have Derrick Rose to trade. Possibly Derrick Rose could be bought out from that point, because I don't know if someone will singly just trade for Derrick Rose, if just receiving Derrick Rose, but someone might be willing to give up a second round pick or like a decent player for Derrick Rose, to add in, like a decent player off the bench. I doubt someone will trade for Derrick Rose, but in that case, if you do these trades, you're ultimately ending up with Malik Beasley and Saddiq Bey. I love it for the Knicks. I think that those two players would ultimately help this Knicks team very well, and I think they definitely have a shot to win a playoff series. Like I said, it's just depending on their matchup. The East is hard, and I think if you, I think this is highly impossible, but if you found a way to match up against Cleveland in the first round, I think the Knicks could win the playoff series with these trades. I just doubt that they can beat the 76ers with Harden and Embiid, and I just don't see them beating Milwaukee either. This is just such a hard year to make it to the second round in the East. There's so much talent. It starts with Cleveland, then going to the main teams with Brooklyn, Milwaukee, Philly, and Boston. I mean, that's 5 teams right there. And then not only that, the Knicks aren't even after Cleveland. You got Miami too. So there's really there's really 6 teams who have a shot in the East. And if the Knicks make some trades as well and, put themselves in a better position, there's 7 teams in the East that have a shot. So I'm not saying the Knicks have a shot to, go far, but I'm saying like getting out of the first round, there's 7 teams that have a shot of getting out of the first round if they play good basketball. This is one of those years in the NBA, not only in the East but in the West too, where there could be a 8 seed upsetting a 1 seed, and it's not going to be a surprise. I mean, right now, for instance, let's say in the East, let's just say the Bulls were the 8 seed and the Celtics were the 1 seed. People would be surprised if the Bulls beat the Celtics. But there are some scenarios in the West where I think if an 8 seed beat whoever, right now Denver, I think if an 8 seed, if it's Phoenix, let's say if Phoenix beat Denver, I mean, they got a good team. Phoenix has a good team. They have Devin Booker, they have Chris Paul, they have Aiden, they have Johnson, they have Bridges. They'll have some other players once they trade Jay Crowder and maybe Dario Saric and possibly Landry Shamet, and they make some trades. They'll have some new players. So I think if the Suns were potentially the 8 seed and the Nuggets were the 1 seed, and the Suns somehow beat the Nuggets and eliminated them, I mean, that's what I remember earlier in the season that Charles Barkley said, is that this is one of those seasons where, if an 8 seed upsets a 1 seed, it's not going to be a shock. I mean, just depending on the matchup, though. But in the West, I mean, like an 8 seed, that's how deep the West is, though, this year. And let's just say Golden State's the 8 seed, right? Because the way they drop some games, sometimes they can fall the way down to the 8 seed. So let's just say Golden State's the 8 seed, and they match up against whoever's at the 1, whether it's Memphis or Denver. No one's gonna be surprised if they upset the 1 or 2 seeds. So it's one of those years in the West or East where everybody has a shot in the playoffs, and it's going to be definitely a really interesting playoff year. So in that case with the Knicks, I think if you make some good trades, potentially Saddiq Bey and potentially Malik Beasley, I think you definitely got a shot. So we'll see what happens, and you guys let me know your thoughts on the trade idea, as the trade would be quickly in 2 second-round picks, 2024 and 2025, going to the Detroit Pistons, and the New York Knicks selecting the New York Knicks, receiving Saddiq Bey, power forward / small forward, who's averaging 14.5 points per game. You guys let me know your thoughts, and peace out.